welcome to a cover story conversation with Sohail Seth. Sohail Seth, as we all know, is a marketing maven. He's a political commentator, columnist, and of course, of late is becoming a favorite guest on Cover Story. So, Sohail, welcome back. We haven't had a conversation in a while. Lots to catch up on. But first, I'd like your comment on, what is happening, say, in the opposition. We've seen this whole, again, there seems to be some activity in the opposition side. They thought they've got a great issue with Adani. How great is that issue first? Then the cases against opposition leaders. So what is your take on what is happening in the opposition?
Somehow, Priya, I feel that the opposition darts from issue to issue and lacks three things. It lacks purpose, it lacks consistency, and it lacks focus. If you're abusing someone or you're talking about corruption, the dichotomy and the paradox is for all to see. The people are completely disengaged from the opposition's entire focus. I said this on your program earlier, and I'm repeating it. Bharat Jodo Yatra did more for Rahul Gandhi than it did for the Congress. It resurrected him. It moved him from Pappu to politician. It also made him come across as a serious person who wants to make the effort of getting rid of his entitlement status and move to someone who's engaging. So from entitlement to engagement was his mantra, and he has succeeded in that. There's no question about it. But the entitlement is still there in a different avatar. If you saw what happened at the plenary session of the Congress, while Mr. Kharge was the Congress president and was the in charge or the sutradhar of the proceedings, it was clearly a Gandhi show. And the Gandhis wanted people to know, that we are the owners, the CEO is Kharge. So let there be no confusion.
Model, Modi versus Nadda, same thing.
Absolutely. So as I've said before also, including on your program, now there is very little difference between the BJP and the Congress. Both have gotten to hurdles, both have muddled up communication, both are unable to respond in terms of crisis. The only difference, Priya, is that BJP is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
The Congress is like a cement plant. Everything is, the opposition is like a cement plant. Everything is in silos. And none of these people want to meet. Now, if you remember, during the Bharat Jodo Yatra, the focus in many states was whether the two prominent leaders who were warring would walk together. In this case, Sachin Pilot and Gehlot. Akhilesh Yadav in Uttar Pradesh complained that he wasn't invited to join the Bharat Jodo Yatra. The Bharat Jodo Yatra then became a left liberal outing for a lot of people, including Mr. Dulat, who said, look, I walked with him because it was good for my book. So,
right.
It became a festival. It became more an outing rather than a purposeful tactic or strategy to win an election. That's number one. Number two, BJP has the money. The opposition doesn't. As we go into the general elections in 2024, I can predict, because I've worked on campaigns, I can predict, Priya, it is not only going to be brutally expensive, it is going to be very, very bloodied, because by then, your social media handles would have risen to a crescendo. The costs of running digital campaigns would have risen to a crescendo. You're talking about a lot of money, a lot of organizational skills, and you're talking about creating different narratives. Look at what's going to happen in 2023. Ram Mandir will be up and running by around November, December at the latest. They say September, October, but I think November, December. Yogi Adityanath, to my mind, in a very justified move, has spelled out his agenda that I'm not going to tolerate any kind of lawlessness, and there'll be zero tolerance for corruption. They are slowly changing the narrative. And, when you move the debate from religion to development, when you move the debate from community and caste to opportunities, both of an economic and social nature, you then involve all communities. Today, in Uttar Pradesh, a Muslim is as concerned about his or her safety as a Hindu is. If safety becomes my lowest common denominator, then I'm able to include all communities. But I'm saying, boss, I'm here to govern. I'm not here to divide and rule. The second is, who is going to be the sutradhar, the person in the middle who will tie the entire opposition together?
Yes.
That is going to be unacceptable to Rahul, because Rahul actually believes he's more equal than the others. It's it's like the chairman of a board. Technically, in a listed company, the chairman is as equal as the directors, but he's more equal than the others in terms of the casting vote or vetoes. Now, my point, Priya, is how do you bring a divided opposition together? A. B. How do you create a narrative which every opposition party buys into? C. When Manish Sisodia was arrested on Sunday, you saw that there was no comment from many opposition parties because Kejriwal hadn't commented when it had happened to them. TMC stayed away, Congress stayed away. Rahul Gandhi goes to Meghalaya and abuses the Trinamool Congress. So you can kiss any alliance goodbye. We have seen the sanctity of alliances also. Uddhav Thackeray had a pre-poll alliance with the BJP, but when the results were out, he went to bed with the NCP, and now what's happening in Maharashtra is for all to see. So I really don't know how the opposition will create a common minimum narrative. See, this common minimum program is gone. It's antiquated. How do I tell a Priya Sahgal, who's a voter in India, that look, this is what the BJP stands for, A, B, C, of which B and C are reprehensible, are anti-democratic, will destroy the country, versus what the opposition stands for, where A, B, C are all pro-India and pro-positive. The other thing, Priya, is the BJP is very good at converting any opposition to Modi or the government's policies into an anti-India sentiment. You know, George W. Bush very famously said after 9/11, either you're with us or against us. The concept of neutrality and being agnostic towards either a policy or a cause or a belief has run away. You are now creating an anti-India sentiment whenever there is a criticism of the government or its policies or the prime minister. How is the opposition going to convert that into some level of positive outreach? Plus, and you know this better than most people do, no political party in India wins an election. They only lose one. People throw people out. It's not that they welcome someone else. The someone else who gets in through the door is there because the person who was in the house has been thrown out. And we have seen that example. So my point is, how will the opposition be able to come together? If the opposition doesn't come together, where will the numbers come from? Let's take it to a mathematical level. You have 524 seats in the Lok Sabha. People are saying that the BJP will be down by at least 70 seats. BJP is today at 300 or whatever it is. Let's say they're, how much? 303, right? So let's say they're down by 73 seats for argument's sake. They will come down to 230. 230 does not give them a majority by any stretch. If 230 is where they are at, and look, hats off to Modi. It's very creditable in these times to even get a second term with that level of majority, which he got in 2014 and in 2019. Now, the problem is at 230, will the BJP need to go out to people? It will. But the BJP has acquired wings of arrogance in the past 3 years. They have ditched their long-standing ally, the Akali Dal, which, by the way, is a good decision to my mind, in Punjab. Uddhav Thackeray is no longer there here. Shinde is as BJP is, to call him Shiv Sena, only the Supreme Court and the Election Commission would. No one considers him a Sainik anymore. So I'm saying, if the BJP has to shore up numbers, who are they going to talk to? Because they've shut the door on everyone. They've slammed the door in everyone's face. Bhai, agar numbers bhi milne hain, to kisse milenge? How will you go out and seek alliances? Because these alliances will have to be pre-poll. And those days are over. 230 buying MPs later is over. Because please remember, you will still have Justice Chandrachud at the helm of the Supreme Court. And all said and done, he is not someone who is pliable. So these are the issues that they have to contend with.
Well, that could be a non-Modi-led BJP then. That would be the first the condition any alliance partner would put.
Excellent. Given the stranglehold that Narendra Modi has, and let's understand brand Modi. Today, the BJP is, to my mind, a Modi-driven party. He is the Karta Dharta of that party. You might say RSS will provide the cadres, will provide the founding base, the edifice. That's all baloney to my mind. Modi is your election mascot. He's the winner of your elections. And if you lose, he should ideally take the blame. But go back into history. When Bengal was lost, no one blamed Modi. So Modi has this remarkable art of taking the credit, but never being ascribed the blame. So
sounds familiar, doesn't it, Sohail?
Yeah. So now imagine if it's like Rahul Gandhi. So now imagine a situation where the BJP's numbers come down to 230. I think Modi will not want anyone else but him. And if he's not the acceptable face, they'll sit out in opposition. They will sit out in opposition. Mark my words, what's going to happen. See, these are all hypothetical situations. If they sit out in opposition, this government will, to my mind at least, last maximum for a year. I mean, this new government. And then the BJP will be back.
But will he be able to convince the RSS and others to sit out in opposition? Because, if he loses that, he also loses his moral high ground to dictate terms.
So which is the point? You see, Modi has created a superstructure for himself. He is the tallest statue, as it were. Now for that statue to shrink, both in stature and in size, is going to be impossible. Plus, let's imagine who will come in his place. Amit Shah, certainly not. Gadkari, perhaps. Who else is there? Who is going to be the consensus candidate? A and B, BJP is not a party that is run by consensus.
Rajnath.
BJP is a party, I doubt.
No, Rajnath would be, I'm surprised you're saying doubt. Rajnath would be very acceptable even to Modi also.
Gadkari will be acceptable to everyone but Modi.
But Modi. Rajnath will be acceptable to Modi and RSS.
But my point is, will Modi ever not be the prime minister and still be in the party?
I agree with you on that. I think, that point I agree with you. And
it's like saying the Congress one day will be without the Gandhis, but with only Kharge. It'll never happen.
Never happen.
So we can wish it. We can wish whatever we want. There is no question of a BJP government without Modi.
If at your perils, the ED is watching.
No, but I'm just saying it's a good thing. There is no government, BJP government without Modi. That I can give you in writing. It will never happen. Unless the prime minister says, I had said at 75, I will retire, and as all of us should. And since we have lost the elections, I am retiring. But I don't see any other option.
I don't see that option. So I think, in fact, I agree with your numbers that the BJP has peaked in a lot of states in the north. So it cannot hope to get those numbers again, because there is a two-term anti-incumbency also. If it loses those seats. But by and large, people are still giving the election to Modi simply because of your first point, that the opposition lacks a coherent strategy, coherent face.
That's number one. Number two, let me say this, as I've said at times on your program. Modi is India's finest prime minister ever. And let me tell you why. If you analyze all our prime ministers, see, Nehru was what I call the default setting on India's soul. He had to be prime minister. But if Sardar Patel had become prime minister, we'd be a different country. Because
all be such a bad country. Nehru left such a...
I'm saying, but Nehruvian socialism and Nehru's entire disbelief of many people led to the kind of situations we are seeing, especially in Kashmir. Go through every prime minister. Indira Gandhi, to my mind, was the biggest destroyer of every Indian institution. Every Indian institution. Narasimha Rao, if you have to analyze him, he will be remembered for economic prowess.
Yeah.
Modi will be remembered for multiple prowesses. He'll be remembered for 370. He'll be remembered for demonetization, good or bad. He'll be remembered. He'll be remembered for digitization. Let me tell you, Priya, this man, and this is why I say the BJP should be ashamed of themselves. If this man was in any other political party and those political parties had even a reasonable brain, they'd have projected Modi in much different light. But they are trying to prove themselves more loyal to the king than the king himself. When the BBC two-part documentary came out, there was no reason to respond. They responded. They are doing stupid things, and who are they shaming? The Prime Minister. All the good work that Modi has done has gone down the drain because it is completely suppressed in what I call the surround sound of hatred. The sounds of development have escaped this country. But 20 years later, people will remember Modi as the man who changed India forever. And let me tell you, for the good. See, I don't care about any political party. They are all the same as far as I'm concerned. But you sit back and analyze what Modi has done.
Okay,
Modi's
hold that thought.
foreign
I'm
policy.
going to take a break and I'm going to ask Sohail to explain what he says because I am not 100% agreement with him. So let's have that conversation after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to Cover Story. We're in conversation with Sohail Seth. We were in fact taking a look as to 2024 and whether Modi would remain Prime Minister. And you made that point that Modi is the best Prime Minister India's had so far. So explain why you said that and then I'm going to counter you.
When Modi took over, India was shamed for corruption, for governmental corruption, what I call for state sovereign corruption. The average Indian, whether in India or overseas, was not as proud of being Indian, belonging to this country, or national pride as it is today. Number three, Chidambaram famously in Parliament mocked digitization and said, "Oh, will a panwala or will someone in rural India be able to offer accept digital payments?" Today, let me tell you, Modi has created the finest egalitarian economy you and I can dream of. I abused and cursed him when the ventilator crisis happened and the oxygenators crisis happened. But no country could have been managed better than what Modi did during COVID. Give the man, cut him some slack. We have been very unforgiving as a country towards our Prime Minister. Number four, everything that Modi and his party said in the manifesto they did. Modi also did a U-turn on some of the mocking things he had said. Manrega being a case in point. Today, your direct benefit transfer, your Ujjwala scheme, your education scheme, these are life-changing. You and I don't experience it. But talk to the common man. Talk to the person who during COVID got his rations without fear or favor. There was no fear in their lives. Mistakes? Of course, mistakes were made. But had there been any other person, he would have not been able to do it. You know why? Leadership is about standing alone. It's not about the silliest concept of leadership. Oh, a leader must take his people. No. If a leader takes his people, then he's more people than leader. A leader must also stand up to be counted. And if you look at all the economic things, you look at the political things.
Okay, I want to come back to the economics first. What you mentioned reeks a lot of Nehruvian socialism, the Labharti schemes, the welfare schemes. He's changed from being the pro-capitalist chief minister to this whole socialist prime minister.
He was never capitalist.
As chief minister.
Never.
Of course he was.
Look at Gujarat.
He was the business industry made him the prime minister candidate before you and I made him.
Correct. But Gujarat, he never ever divested any PSU which was state-owned in Gujarat. Look at his track record. A, B, who disinvested in Air India? Modi. Who made sure that loss made...
Now, he's done that now. What was his first land acquisition bill? He changed it to favor the industrialists and not the farmers. When the Congress...
1 minute.
He amended it.
Because I was involved in this.
Yes.
When in Sanad, he started giving land for automobiles to be manufactured, he gave, when the landowners were asking for 1x, he offered and gave them 20x. Because he wanted to create a Detroit out of Gujarat, much like Jayalalitha had done in Tamil Nadu.
Which is my point. Is he pro-farmers or was he pro...
no, so this is my point. He has been, to my mind, buffeted by silly winds. The biggest mistake he made was to take the farm laws back, to my mind. The farm laws were nothing short of blackmail. Today, we are reaping that sad harvest in Punjab. When you see Punjab at a brink. My point is that if you analyze what Modi's done, and look, the world went through the worst ever inflection point, the worst ever crisis. Today, economies across the world are doddering and suffering. Here's my thing. It's very easy for us to say, okay, he's done this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But when you look at the scorecard, you have to ask yourself one question. Did he make intentional mistakes to favor people? The answer is no. Is this the most non-corrupt government ever at the center? The answer is yes. Has Modi done things for the betterment of Indians and India? The answer is yes. Has he buoyed, has he enhanced, has he increased pride of being Indian and Indianness? The answer is yes. He has done more for national tourism than any prime minister has. Now, people will argue that, some forests have been given away to industry and all. There are courts of law. People say, the judiciary has been tight-noosed. But where is the judiciary tight-noosed? The collegium is, is still intact. People say, there's Godi media. You're not Godi media. I'm not Godi media. There are many people who are surviving. If it was Indira Gandhi, should have shut the wire down long ago. That's true. So my point is, cut the man some slack. When the scorecard is seen, you will see that he would be India's best prime minister. Because best is contextual, Priya.
I agree
best
with
is
you.
At a time when the world is doddering. How do you do it? What did Franklin Delano Roosevelt do? Why did Ronald Reagan become so popular? When Ronald Reagan took office as president of the United States, people were laughing, saying, what does this cowboy know? He's a film actor. What did people say about MGR when he took over in Tamil Nadu? What did people say about Naveen Patnaik? If you look at social development as a scorecard in Odisha, Naveen Patnaik has done fabulously well.
Yeah.
So these were all the people who no one imagined.
No, fair enough. But Modi knew that he would be a good. He knew that his prime ministerial ambitions before any of us do, and he had planned for this day, for this moment.
But Priya, what's wrong with that?
Narasimha Rao, that he was standing in line buying milk or something.
But I'm happy if I have someone who's clear of his goal.
The country. I don't know why. I think Narasimha Rao is one of our better prime ministers.
I said he was one of the good prime ministers, but his measurement will only be along economic indices. His measurement will not be across political indices. Because please also remember, he slept at the wheel when Babri Masjid happened. He did nothing.
Sleeping at the wheel and also not saying anything. Why is the prime minister not saying anything when there are, minorities are being attacked, lynchings are happening?
No, so this is a brilliant point.
The social indices are
brilliant point. 2014, May 26th, the government was sworn in. May 28th, Pranab Mukherjee hosted a dinner at Rashtrapati Bhavan for the cabinet. June 15 or June 18, there was a young Muslim boy on a motorcycle who was stopped, lynched, and killed in Pune. That day, a girl from Pune was also the CBSE topper. Modi made a phone call to that girl to congratulate her. That evening on television, I said, I wish the Prime Minister had also called the parents of that boy to condole. That is something that I've never understood. Having said that, it is not the Prime Minister's business to make condolence calls every day, but it is the Prime Minister's business to say enough is enough. When recently he warned his people, saying that be more responsible about the comments you make. This is a comment that I welcomed, but it was too little too late. It could have come earlier, but it's Modi. Now you tell me, this man has been vilified. He has been abused. He has been cast aside. Visas were denied to him. But every court, Priya, under a very hostile government, every court exonerated this man. It's not that this man sneaked a judgment from the back door. Now, if you're abusing him, then you're willy-nilly abusing every institution in India, which exonerated him.
This should have been the defense on the BBC documentary. This is what the BJP should have said instead of panicking.
I said that to these people. I said on your program.
I know.
Your 2-sentence response would have been, thank you, BBC. But this documentary is flawed because India's institutions are more credible than a public broadcaster.
From a foreign country.
That's it. Than a public broadcaster. और बात खत्म. हम लोग हर चीज पे justification करते हैं. Then we engage. Then when the engagement doesn't work our way, then we abuse. What's the point?
Which brings me, the narrative that I don't want to pick it up, and to the times we are living in, because the BJP is appealing so much to the majority sentiment or what they feel the majority would like. Other parties like the Congress are also letting go of what some of the good parts of the Congress, their so-called secular values. They are feeling scared to say anything on the Bilkis Banu case or on any other atrocities. You don't see the Congress opening its mouth also.
I don't know when you were growing up if you were fond of two things. They begin with C, the crossword and chess.
Yes.
If you were, you would know that what this guy is doing, he's always playing an endgame situation. And these guys, the opposition, are so stupid that they're falling into that. Let me tell you, the prime mover advantage as you have in marketing, there's a prime communication advantage in politics. When you say it first, you're remembered for saying it.
Yes.
And always the guy who does anything first is remembered. Do you know who's the second man who walked the moon? Buzz Aldrin, but very few people will know. They'll know Neil Armstrong. You will know Yuri Gagarin was the first person who circumvented the Earth. Very few people know who the second was. You will know Edmund Hillary. And you know, but you will not know Nawang Gombu, who summited Mount Everest multiple times.
But today we know Modi as much as we know Nehru. So, he may not be the first prime minister.
No, but I'm saying it says a lot. Look, I will, and I know we're running out. I will end with one thing. For far too long, because of appeasement politics, largely by Indira Gandhi, the majority was made to feel guilty of being majority, which, by the way, is fine. But the majority were made to feel guilty for being Hindu. He's changed the narrative. B, it is not his job to create leadership for the Muslim population in our country. Neither is his job or Amit Shah's job to go to Khan Market looking for an opposition. This is something that they have to create. If Muslims do not have a pan-national leader, the last guy was a rabble-rouser, Said Shahabuddin. After that, which significant Muslim do you have? You have great minds, great people like Salman Khurshid, but they don't have any mass appeal. No. Owaisi is off the charts. Who's your Muslim leader?
Yeah. I agree with you on that point. And there is a part of his appeal is that, as you said, the majority community feels that, there is one of us and we feel,
आप पहले बोलते थे कि भाई
सही है
हिंदू पहले वो स्लोगन था हम हिंदू हैं शर्म से. He has changed it. हम हिंदू हैं गर्व से. What has he done? Every human being wants pride of place, pride of origin, and pride of dignity. He's transferred that. Now, if you have a problem with that, you cannot counter that by saying, "No, but Muslims go." भाई पहले एक compartment को handle करो, then move to another compartment.
But don't, live and let live होना चाहिए, or not.
I totally agree.
That is the.
I was born in Calcutta. For me, we never had this debate either in our minds or in our hearts. Ki bhai, Priya is this, or someone is that, or someone is this. We saw them and we continue to see them as fine human beings.
Correct.
Religion is meant to be private and it should stay so.
On that note, totally. In fact, we're totally out of time, but you've given me a very good idea for another conversation maybe later as to who let the appeasement cat out of the bag, Was it Nehru? Some would say Nehru also with this.
Absolutely. What did Nehru do? One last thing. What did Nehru do? Read V.P. Menon's books. V.P. Menon, 2 books, including one written by his granddaughter or great-granddaughter, Narayani Basu. Read those 2 books. He was the political secretary to Sardar Patel. What did Muhammad Ali Jinnah want? He wanted proportional representation in the pre-independence interim cabinet for Muslims, which was denied to him by Nehru and Gandhi. And as Punjabis would say, Sara Siapa began from there.
Okay. We're totally out of time. I would also ask you to read a brilliant book written by Dr. Aishwarya Pandit. In fact, she's written a book on this appeasement politics on Muslims. That's a book I'll recommend to you to read also, Sohail. But on this, I think, thank you for this conversation and thank you all for watching the show.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.